Hello data wizards, welcome back. Today we'll be solving a SQL question that was asked at Spotify. And again, if you find this videos helpful, please like and subscribe. It really helps me with making more videos like this.
Would you please stop saying that?
This is a hard question, or rated as hard. Let's look at it together. Let's read the question. Find the number of days a US track had stayed in the first position for both the US and worldwide rankings. Output the track name and the number of days in the first position. Order your output alphabetically by track name. If the region US appears in the dataset, it should be included in the worldwide ranking. So we're given two tables. First is the daily Spotify rankings in the US, and the other table is worldwide daily song rankings. What columns do we really need? There are a lot of columns here that are not really needed for this question. For example, the streams. The columns that will be needed from reading the question is position, track name, and number of days. We don't really have number of days. We have a date column. So we could probably derive number of days from the date column. So let's explore the data by removing the columns that we don't need and only selecting the columns that we think we need. So as we've said, we need the track name, date, position. Let's look at the US first. All right, so we have a lot of them with position as 1 in the US. Let's look at the worldwide data. Since we are just exploring, I'm going to copy the code and just change the table name. And just run only the selected one. So we have a lot of rows with various positions. Let's filter it down to just where the position is number 1. For that, we will use a where clause. Let's run this again. All right, so now we see worldwide. There are a few songs over different days that are positioned number 1. So what we're asked is find the number of days a US track has stayed in the first position in both the US and worldwide rankings. So for example, if this is one of the rows, it has to stay number 1 in the US in this top data and also in the bottom data set. One way of getting to that answer is joining both the tables on track name and date. This will give us the songs and the date where they're both number 1 on the same day. So to accomplish that, let's look at a common table expression and make 2 different common table expressions and join those 2 common table expressions on date and track name. Let's call this USCTE and the other one as World CTE. In our data set, there's only position of number 1 in the US data set, but just to be safe for when the data set also has other positions in the US, let's use a where clause here that we also have in the world. And let's look at the data by selecting all the columns. Let's call like we said, we're going to join on the date and the track name equals and let's look at the answer. Oh yeah, we don't need width right here. We could just call it world CTE. There we go. Instead of a comma, I have to add an and. So we have multiple columns that are repeated. We don't really need it. Let's hone in on selecting the track and the date. All right, so we have all of this, but the question asks us to count the number of days. To get a count, what you could use is an aggregate function of count and grouping them by the track name. Okay, so we have this, and let's see if that's correct. All right, looks like that's the correct answer. Just to recap what we did, we selected just the columns that we need. This cuts down on the noise and then makes the solution much more simpler. And also it's easier for you to visualize the data when you remove the columns that we don't need. And then we created two common table expressions and then joined both of them on date and the track name. And this will give us the answer that we need. It is a hard question, but when you know the answer, it's pretty simple.
Obviously.
Or by going through step by step and creating common table expressions. If you liked the solution, please like the video. Until next time, happy coding, wizards.